Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back.
Welcome back, guys. As always, want to invite you to go check out evolutionaryenergyarts.com. We couldn't do it without you guys. And also, please do check out Patreon. There was a couple videos that went up over on Patreon. There's, again, exclusives on Patreon and YouTube for members. And we want to just thank you for your support. And, we couldn't do it without you guys in this crazy times.
This is very true. Thank you so much.
Yes, there's a whole bunch of series that are going to be expanded on. Actually, we have a lot of things planned. Then I saw this, and so many people are so obviously concerned with what's going on with the big quakes and wondering, what is coming. Here we see this channel is on the pulse with Silky. Warning, as underwater volcano off west coast is rocked by 300 earthquakes, Axial Seamount. The Axial Seamount's been in the news a lot in the last 10, 12 years, I want to say. And when we're looking at what's happening with the quakes right now, we have that swarm. This is looking at the last 24 hours. And here along this section of the Pacific Ring of Fire, we're showing 214 of 268 quakes that the USGS is sharing. That's a big percentage. Huge percentage. And this is the swarm that we were centered into from Kamchatka Peninsula. If we extend this out, right now we got 49 aftershocks basically. If we go out 7 days, you can see there's 85 quakes there, including, let's see, if we list it from largest magnitude, you see that 7.4, 66, 66, 66, a little message there, 3 6s. Let's scoot over to the Aleutians, let's scoot over to the swarm, and the big ones over in Alaska, and we could see that's busy too, and we have 7 3, 6 2, and then some 5s. And in fact, that's 569 quakes right here in just 1 week's time. There's a lot of activity going on. And when we talk about the Axial Seamount, we are looking over here towards Juan de Fuca and the Pacific Northwest. So this is obviously close enough to affect things that are happening. It's part of the bigger picture, though. Everything is interconnected. Here you have, this just says everything, right? And I want to reiterate the fact that when you look to the movies, it's like we've discovered we are living in the Matrix movie series to a degree, right? We are also living in the Alien versus Predator series to a degree with Prometheus and the whole Alien versus Predator thing. Well, they're sending something that is truly biological warfare to Earth to wipe out the life that was created on Earth by the Architect series, again, which are referring to the Anunnaki and the Nibiruans. You can't make all this up. In fact, Lord of the Rings is like our past history when we look at it. And we could keep adding in all the movies to what's going on. It's like they're constantly giving us the script that we are all experiencing. And when we look to They Live, that infamous Roddy Piper cult movie that talks about reptilian aliens, it says in one scene when they're going and creeping in, when Roddy and his cohort there are creeping in to the secret society meetings of these reptilians, they say yes, and we are going to launch our big their big endeavor, their big attack on humanity. When? In 2025. And then we look at the DEA GEL numbers, and what does they show? They show a forecast between 2017 and 2025, an awful lot of population decline in only certain countries, primarily NATO countries. Then, and we're going to share another one with you. But here we go. A bloated volcano on the West Coast is set to erupt in 2025. And it's being live streamed now. It's set to erupt this year. When exactly, only time will tell. I don't know. Maybe it's already been designated in the script as to when it's going to go. So they're talking about the Axial Seamount, underwater volcano in the Pacific Ocean, about 300 miles from Oregon's beaches. Submerged feature towers at over 3,609 feet. Again, this is a submerged volcano, but it is an active volcano. In fact, it's the most active volcano in the Pacific Northwest. So here you go. It's submerged, but its summit reaches 4,626 feet. So it's substantial. The thing is, it's a baby, sort of. It's growing. It's active. It's in its evolutionary growth phase, so to speak. So the last time it erupted was 10 years ago, 2015, exploding in a flurry of lava and volcanic debris across 25 miles of the surrounding seafloor. Late last year, geologists put out a warning that it was showing all the telltale signs another eruption is brewing. It woke up, and in fact, we know the lava flow is building. In fact, I do think in the long term, when you look to what's this going to lead to, it's going to lead to new land for people to live on. That's the bottom line. This is how Earth, cleans herself. And yes, this has been studied big time. And I'll give you the links. We have all that there as well. But, the good news is it doesn't pose any risk to human life. It won't produce tsunamis, earthquakes, or even a smoke plume because it's under the ocean. So, we won't really know until maybe you find a lot of pumice on the beach, or maybe there is something significant out there, but it doesn't cause a mega tsunami and all. But when we look to history, we do know there was the 1700 Cascadia earthquake. This occurred on the Cascadian subduction zone, January 26, 1700. We have the exact time. Estimated magnitude of 8.7 to 9.2. I've seen other sources saying between 9 and 9.5. The megathrust earthquake involved the Juan de Fuca plate from mid-Vancouver Island, south along the Pacific Northwest coast, as far as Northern California. The plate slipped an average of 20 meters. 66 feet. Look at those numbers. Whoa. Do we have any foreshadowing with numbers? Yeah, I think we do. And a fault rupture about 600 miles long, 1,000 kilometers. It caused a tsunami, which struck the west coast of North America and the coast of Japan. Japanese tsunami records, along with reconstructions of the wave moving across the ocean, put the earthquake at about 9 p.m. Pacific time on the evening of 26th of January 1700. So why do we equate this to what's happening on the Axial Seamount? Well, because it's the same area. It's the same area. And so, again, we want to look at the bigger picture. Again, when you look to this, this was massive. This wiped out so many little towns and villages right along the coastline. And it is something that was traumatic to everybody living there. According to Japanese records, destructive waves hit the towns along the Pacific coast of Japan on the 8th and 9th days of the 12th month of Genroku 12, which would be the equivalent to January 27th and 28th, 1700. Based on damage reports in Japanese records, the maximum wave heights were estimated to be in the range of 2 to 5 meters. That's substantial. Kuwagasaki, 13 houses were destroyed by flooding, 20 in subsequent fire, with this representing 10% of the buildings in this town at that time. So they say, again, much damage. This did also impact sailors who were off the coasts. This was a huge event. And it really was something that it was monumental to really look at the impact of this. And I think this is covering up a lot more because, again, our history is a story that's agreed upon by the victors in the bigger scheme of things. So I think it covers up a lot more of what we have been digging into as Tartaria and other sorts of cultures that were living on the planet. And, again, at this time, if you go back, we have all these different encounters going on in Patagonia, down in South America, Argentina and Chile. You have, around this time and before this time, encounters with giants down there. There was, of course, all the records of these different giants that were all across the Americas as well. I think this is very significant for more than one reason. Again, there's oral accounts from the natives that were living in this area. The accounts described that all the low-lying settlements were wiped out. Only survivors were those people who lived 75 feet above the waterline. So the tsunami must have been massive. Think about that. You had to be 75 feet above the waterline. And when we look over here, this is ResearchGate talking about this. It's just, to go, what these people went through would have been just terrifying.
Oh gosh, I know it's hard to think about, but also when I look back, I'm seeing there is some deliberate energy going into that to really scatter people and soften them up. I mean, it's not a nice vision. So looking at these things, and you have to ask yourself, could that ever happen, or would they ever do something like that? And I think these technologies that we're looking at that can cause major issues, I think they've been around for a very long time to get people softened up so they can come in and kind of take the land.
Yeah, so this is what I'm getting. And this is, again, yes, we recognize there's all sorts of, you will find, so many different papers on this. In fact, we have a ton of papers. And, this is from ResearchGate, talking about this, event, again, ghost forests, dead cedar trees. It's just, wild to see the changes that were done. And, this is the difference with Cindy and I, is that we are, again, using also our intuitive abilities, her abilities to connect with the guides, as well as my own, which keep developing as well, and feeling into the energies. And so is this a purely natural event, or was there some technology involved? What we feel is this was definitely something that could occur naturally, but was, again, triggered at that time by technology, and also augmented by that technology in order to change the system that was in place. Because the system that was in place remembered how things were before the takeover by the dark entities that became the founders of the dark matrix. Did you know that California was an island? We've done several videos on this too. In fact, almost the vast majority of maps pre-1700 seem to show California as an island. There's some that do show it as a peninsula, but we've covered this in other videos, and again, that 1700-ish timeline, that's when it seems like it changed. And I do think everything changed in a very, very big way. I thought the Netflix movie, how it ends, was so interesting. It really triggered me, because this movie, by the way, this movie was a 2018 film. So when the beginnings of really the big change that was happening from the August 2017, in my mind, when everything went crazy with the first eclipse, and then the second eclipse in April of 2024 marked the end of the Kali Yuga, which again just means that we're not going to be in the dark. We're going to understand what's going on in the bigger picture of things. It takes time for the masses to wake up. But this was really a very fun flick, I thought, because again, I think it was telegraphing what's to come. So you have Will and Sam, a young couple expecting their first child. He flies from Seattle, visits her parents in Chicago, intending on asking her father, Tom, for permission to marry her. And then at dinner, there's an argument, etc., without mentioning the pregnancy or the wedding. And then all hell breaks loose. I mean, all hell breaks loose, and we don't know what's going on. This is so key because I think, literally, we might be a few months from something similar to this happening. It's really, I think, very, very predictive, just like the Obama's movie and the Civil War movie that came after that movie. So the next day, Sam calls Will before his flight back. She becomes scared when she hears a strange sound, says something's wrong. Again, where is she? She's in Seattle. The line goes dead. At the airport, all flights are canceled. Oh, wow, all flights are canceled. There's a TV news report discussing preliminary reports on a seismic event where? Off the West Coast. Wait a minute. Off the West Coast? What's off the West Coast? The Axial Seamount is off the West Coast. 300 miles, remember? Well, it disrupts electrical power and telecommunications. Will returns to Sam's parents, where Will and Tom agree to drive to Seattle to find Sam because you can't use planes. Now, Cindy has had visions that show when the event happens, nobody will fly again, and not for any foreseeable period of time. And in fact, we do see when we look farther out that nobody is flying. Again, timelines can change, and this is why we bring this up, to do just that, to change the timelines. So they're going, and the movie really is, the whole thing is the son-in-law to be and the dad don't get along. There's a lot of tension, and it's all about making things right in the journey to find out what's happening over on the West Coast, of which we don't know, and they never clearly tell you. There is something, that happens off the West Coast at the Axial Seamount, in this general area. And they're giving this to us back in 2018 on Netflix. And what do we see? There's some sort of huge, as you could see, the volcanic eruption, massive burst of fire ash and shock waves, pyroclastic flow. In fact, it's pretty damn scary stuff because, when he gets to Seattle, there's not much left. Everything is pretty much devastated. And then towards the very, very end of the movie, there's this race to escape what is nothing but a wall of fire. And interesting enough, we've been talking about Yellowstone. Well, he's up in that area too at different points. And you just see a massive wall of smoke and fire, and you're wondering what the heck is happening, and they never tell you in the movie. Because you also see military jets going over, and there is one scene where they say, was this an act of nature, or is this like an act of war? We never know. They leave it open. This is fascinating. Strange noise. Lose the connection. All the power in the western U.S. is down, and the crisis soon spreads all across the country. No planes are flying. And then we have all this telegraphing the Axial Seamount, which experts will say, you have nothing to worry about from this. You have nothing to worry about, even though, there's hundreds of quakes going on. There's inflation. These, again, coming out Oregon State University. Look clearly at who funds them. This is part of the bigger reveal, is watch who funds all these studies. And by the way, here you go. NOAA, NASA, the actual volcano on the Juan de Fuca Ridge, right on the edge there. And, that event in the movie, again, telegraphing. You get where I'm coming from? It's just like they're doing this to us.
It is. It's a little bit of something, a little bit of look at this and look at that. And, what do? We can prepare ourselves. That's what we can do. But then we have to move on with our lives. But we also look around, if we're bringing this up, there's other things at play too. There's all the other earthquakes, and there's also astrological positioning now that could create such a thing here in the States. So what do? We just want people to be ready, people to be prepared, because there's something out there. Something's, July is a very, very hot month. I think we should keep an eye on it.
Yeah, and I keep feeling really the biggest bangs are going to be more in September, October. But recognize again that the DEAGLE or DGEL numbers, those ones, again, the forecast was this year. Everything has been telegraphed for this year. So I think, how do we foil their plans? Wake up as many people as possible and make it not happen this year. And then it's, again, part of crumbling the whole matrix that has been enshrouded in darkness around us. And again, we will shine the light on it and expose it for what it is.
Indeed.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you guys for your support. Look forward to your comments. Source bless and namaste.
Namaste.